So my name is Kiro Risk. I'm a web dev here at LinkedIn. I work in the connected team. I got a bunch of the connected guys actually in here, minus a few, but it doesn't matter. So today we're going to be learning about JavaScript scoping, or OOP and scoping. But we're going to do it backwards first, because to learn object-oriented programming in JavaScript, you would have to know, or in any language, you would have to know what scoping really means. So I actually posted a bunch of exercises or examples, right? I grabbed this alias, go my name, go Kiro. So if you want to follow along, not to the slides, but to be able to do some of the exercises by copying the code in go/Kiro and putting it in your console, feel free to do so. Seth and Jim are going to be walking around every now and then and help you guys if you do need help. So this is the agenda for today. We're going to go over scoping, what it is, how it works. We're going to talk about hoisting, look at some examples, and then we're going to dig in really deeper on how it works behind the scenes. From there, we're going to talk about OOP, or object-oriented programming. I hear some guys here saying OOP. I'm from Canada. We say OOP. And we're going to talk about constructors in JavaScript, what they are, how they are defined, what they mean, classes, and I put that in quotes because in JavaScript, as we know, there's no concept of classes. And from there, we're going to be able to construct objects and thereby employ inheritance and other design patterns in JavaScript. So first things first, forgive me guys, who knows what scoping is by a raise of hands? Because I'm going to skip over things if I know what, oh really? No, hands up. I'm gonna ask people. All right, who put their hand up here first? Cassidy. What is scoping, Cassidy? No. Okay. I know you know the answer, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you the Wikipedia answer, which is a little verbose, and I feel a little bit, off topic. I feel, but basically, read it up. He says a scope is the context within which a computer program. In a computer program, which a variable name or other identifier is valid and can be used, or within which a declaration has effect. A little verbose. I read this and he says, what the hell is this saying? Basically, all it means is that in any piece of code, a scope is the part of it in which you can define new variables. So basically, it is a declaration space. Outside of the scope of a program, those variables may or may not have effect. So let's look at some examples out there how languages deal with scoping. Is everybody here familiar with Java? I mean, of course, I assume yes, since we are mostly Java shop and everybody has some sort of Java infatuation here. Everybody good with Java? What kind of scoping does Java have? Block level scope. Okay, we're not going to deal with Java anyway. We're gonna see a C example because I think C is a little bit better in dealing with scoping with block level scoping than Java is. So take a look at this example. Who can tell me what the output is in here? And by output, I mean the print statements. What is actually going to be output on the screen? Somebody. I'm going to pick on people otherwise. Roman. No. Don't look at. Do not go to go Kiro yet. Howard, who can tell me what the output is going to be? It's going to be 1, 2, 1. Perfect. I was going to have gifts, but I decided not to. Later. Okay. You know what, guys? I'm going to pick on people, and then when you do get a good answer going, I'm going to put your name down, and I'm going to order you a copy of Douglas Crockford JavaScript book, which is fantastic. Now I promise you. So Howard was the first one, so I'm going to put his name down because all you guys are shy and no problem. So again, Howard, out loud, what was the output? Yeah. 1, 2, 1. Awesome. Do you guys know why? So the C language and most of the C family has what we call block level scope. What is a block? Exactly. Now, perfect definition by Anand. Yes, I'll put your name down, even though you're in my team, so it's kind of cheating. What is a block level scope? What is block? What is a block?
The block is just basically within curly braces.
So anything between two curly braces, here, defines a block. So if conditions, while loops, for loops, all those between curly braces that define a new block. And anything declared in that block, like like declaration like var assignments, assignments do not have effect on the enclosing scope, meaning anything declared in here is now going to have effect on the outer scope, which is the main. So in here, I have one variable called x, one integer declare x, assigned a value of 1. Fantastic. That's given to the outer scope. The inner scope now is in the if condition. I have the exact same variable name, not the variable, but just the exact same identifier. That's what the x is, just the name or the identifier. It's given an assignment of 1. It is not going to have effect on the outer x. That's great. Actually, I wanted to show an example in Java, but Java is a little bit peculiar when it comes to dealing with this stuff. You cannot have a variable inside an inner scope with the same identifier of a variable outside of the scope. It's actually going to give you a compile error, right? Yeah, yes, awesome. Now, JavaScript, completely different. JavaScript have what we call a function level scope. Does everybody know this? By raise of hands? Okay, minus the web desk. Okay, cool. Yeah, Anand, Alex. Okay, fantastic. Sachin for sure. I'm going to pick on Sachin, ask him a couple of questions. Be prepared. So JavaScript, as I said, has function level scope. That means that the only thing in JavaScript that can create a scope is functions. Which is interesting, actually, because who here knows what closures are in JavaScript? If I don't get enough hands, I'm just not going to go on with it. OK, then I'm not going to go with it. Now, as I said, the only thing in JavaScript that can create scope are functions. So let's look at this. What do you think is going to happen if this thing runs? By the way, guys, this is an immediately invoked function expression. That means that as soon as the program starts and the JavaScript environment takes over, it's going to be executed. And the only reason I did this, as opposed to having like a function declaration and then call the function itself, is because spacing. So I said this is going to be immediately invoked. What is going to happen? OK. Too many people. Anand, out loud.
2, 2.
It's going to be 1, 2, 2. Sorry? OK, 2 books for Anand. Yes. So it's going to be 1, 2, 2. Why? Function level scope.
You specify an extra 2 in the function. So by the time you get to the next bit, it's just 2.
So, somewhat. So what JavaScript is actually doing in this scenario is that it's saying a parsing time. It's looking at the code first thing, and it sees, okay, well, there's only one scope in here, one function. Saying, okay, well, if true, it doesn't really care about what the condition is in here. It says there is a variable in there. Okay, well, it's going to raise it to the top. It says var x is equal to 1. Console.log x is going to print out 1. At the same time, we have x redefined to 2, but it's going to be hoisted. We're going to go over that in a bit. And the assignment is made when it reaches a condition, x is now equal to 2. I've since changed the value of x to point to the value of x to be 2. So now the new console.log is going to print out 2. A little too much, maybe. This is actually one of the easier ones, but it might seem a little bit too much if you're not used to function level scoping. Hopefully, my objective is to give you a technique so that everyone here can solve function level scoping in JavaScript. So just by looking at the function, you can tell what the scope is going to be or what the output is going to be. Just because JavaScript is such a forgiving language, JavaScript programs can be a little bit too verbose, a little bit crappy, and very aesthetically displeasing. So if you're going to code that way, at least or if you're going to see code that is coded that way, you want to be able to understand exactly what's going to happen and what identifiers are pointing to what values. The whole point of scoping. Now, let's look at this example right over here. I want to ask questions. Who should I pick on for this one? Somebody. Put your hand up. Alex. It's going to be Alex and Anand the whole time? All right. I'm just going to, I know most people here. I'm just going to pick on you guys. Alex. So, OK, so Alex said he's going to print out 1. So 1 here. 1 here. 3. 3. Awesome. Oh, sorry. Awesome. So why is it going to do this in this case, guys? I actually have no new variable declarations inside of my inner function. So how many scopes do you guys see there, first of all? Walter? 2. No? Perfect. Perfect. Yes, Colin, that's perfect. There's 2 functions here defined. And remember, as I said 30 seconds ago, or a minute ago, hopefully you guys remember, we want no goldfish memory. So there is 2 scopes defined in here because there's 2 scopes because there are 2 functions. And as I said, each function is going to define a new scope. But the inner scope will always have access to anything declared in the outer scope. What is the inner scope in this case? Okay, appropriately named inner. And the outer scope is the anonymous function expression, this one. So as I said, inner is going to have access to all the variables declared in the outer scope. What is a variable declared in the outer scope here? Foo. Perfect. Foo is given a value of 1. Inner is going to be executed. It's going to print out the value of 1. I'm reassigning foo to be equal to 3, and then I'm printing the value again, so now it is 3. This is actually like an odd example, is that I'm not introducing any new variable declarations in the inner scope. And I just wanted to show you this because it will help you understand the next set of examples. So there is a concept in JavaScript or in any a lot of programming language called hoisting. Who here knows what hoisting is? I'm going to put this back to the previous slide so nobody cheats. Who here knows what hoisting is or is familiar with the word hoist? It's an English word. Oh, okay. So hoist is just another way of saying raising, literally the act of raising something. So JavaScript has this notion called hoisting. Means that JavaScript is going to hoist all declarations. Essentially, all declarations like assignments, like variable assignments, function declarations are going to be hoisted or raised up to the top of their enclosing scope. Again, any variable declaration or function declaration is going to be raised up to the top of their enclosing scope. Enclosing scope meaning the immediate scope they are in. I just want to say also, and I want to really do that, I really want to stress this, is that, and I'm going to, this credit goes to Sachin because he put the words in my mouth, is that, so if I'm wrong, you can blame him. No, I'm just kidding. So that the hoisting is a conceptual model of how JavaScript deals with declarations. It doesn't actually go and looks at the code and then deconstructs it for you and then reconstructs it for you so that you have like a nice, properly structured piece of code. No, it doesn't do that at all. But it's just a model that helps programmers conceptualize what is happening or how to interpret their code. The way it actually deals with it, maybe we can, if you guys, we're going to have a break actually. If you guys want to know, we can talk about it. It's a little bit complicated. I can demystify it as much as possible. Let me know if you guys want to hear it. And if you don't, well, too bad. So look at this var statements over here. This var statement over here. Var foo is equal to 42. So the variable is hoisted, meaning? Yes, Walter. The variable is moved to the top of the enclosing scope. But notice that only the variable is moved to the top. So var and then the variable and the identifier or name. The assignment is not moved to the top. The assignment stays exactly in its lexical address. It stays exactly, in other words, where it is in the piece of code. When the variable is hoisted to the top of the function, it's given a default value of undefined. Unless, of course, the variable is already at the top, in which the assignment goes on right away. And the variable that has been hoisted is available everywhere inside of the enclosing scope. So let's look at this example now that we have this. And this time we're going to do it a little bit proactively. All right. That's not what I want. All right, there we go. Was this it? No. Yes. All right, Is that big enough for you guys? Can you guys look at it? See? All right, awesome. So let's apply the principle of hoisting to this piece of code, this program. Let's apply it to this. So the first thing that it's going to happen is that JavaScript is not going to do this. Again, hoisting, we're going to do it. And just so it's going to help us conceptualize it, or understand the concept, I mean. So the first thing, see what I've underlined? Or actually here, I have a variable called foo. It's assigned the value of 1. I have another scope in there, the inner scope, and I have another variable in there assigned the value of 3. So I'm actually going to move it, as I said. What's moved to the top of the enclosing scope, guys? Yes, just the declaration. So what I've highlighted is moved to the top. What is the default values given is undefined. So I mean, implicitly, you don't have to worry about it because it's undefined. Well, I'll just put it in there. Does it help now to understand what's happening in this case? Now that I've actually explicitly moved the function, moved the declaration. I've done the hoisting, essentially, in this case. So if I run this, what's going to happen? Roman. Well, hold on. 1, and then inner is going to be executed, comes to inner, and then what? Undefined. Then 3. Then 1. Does everybody understand why? Is this easy? Yeah, you think so. Okay, good. All right. Any questions so far? Yes.
I'm not sure if I missed this, but what's the point of hoisting at all? Why?
Sure. Okay. So I'm gonna answer that by asking something else first. What is the point of scoping? Okay. No, you know. I mean, I'm just asking. You can make this. Okay. So why do we have scopes and blocks and all that nonsense to begin with? Shouldn't say nonsense, but why do we have it, right? Yes.
So we don't overwrite other people's variable names.
Perfect. That's the perfect answer. So the whole point of scoping is that you essentially you protect all your variables. You protect them from accidental modification, overrides, or anything like that. That is actually the foundation of encapsulation. From there, you can build, well, from there, like essentially, all languages will essentially lead to a perfect, object-oriented programming paradigm, just with encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, and all that. You want to be able to have access definition, access control, public, private, and all that stuff, which scoping essentially gives to you for free.
So could you move line 13 up to line 3 and still have it work properly since the function would have been placed into the top?
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. We're going to go on to that. Yes. Very good. I approve. Okay, so let's go to the next example. This one is a little bit more interesting and a little bit of like a teaser, but if you guys can figure it out, it's meant that you can maybe get 2 books. All right, so let's look at this. Actually, I don't need to do this. All right, so what's going to happen in this case? Hint, every single strategy applies with hoisting, regardless of the condition. Remember, blocks do not define scope. Functions define scope in JavaScript. No, not Alex, because he's been answering a few. No? Ah, Cassidy.
Does not undefined return true?
Correct.
Okay,
So the question was, does not undefined return true? As in, if not undefined, is that equal to true? Okay. So what's going to happen? Okay, so let's hoist things around. Okay, so let's do some hoisting. Okay, so I see 2 scopes in here. I see the outer scope in the name in the anonymous function expression. With this one, I see another scope right here. All right, so I see a variable in there. Let's take it. I'm gonna move it to the top of the enclosing scope. It's gonna give it a default value of undefined, and then that. Now, is it easier to understand what's going to happen now? Yes? So what's going to happen? No, you just answered. Yes. So it's going to give what? It's going to what? 10 and then 1. Fantastic. Any questions so far, guys? No? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, awesome. Good time. So now we did it to var declarations, var assignments. What about functions? And what is your name? Carlos. Okay. So Carlos actually alluded to it, which is perfect. And we're going to deal with what Carlos suggested. Now, function declarations are treated pretty much the same way. They're hoisted before the execution starts. And they're available as well, same as the var statements. They're available everywhere in the scope it was defined is. So remember what Carlos said right here? You know, we have foo that is called before foo was defined, but yet it's still going to work because foo is created before the code actually executes. So in this example, this one is a pretty straightforward example, I think. What do you think, guys, is going to happen in this case? Little crickets. Anon. Yeah. So here is going to be printed out. 3 books. Yes. So why is that the case? Even though I have a return statement in here, it means nothing. You know, I have one scope in there. Foo is going to be hoisted before foo is actually called. So essentially what's going to happen is that you have the function expression, then you have a function declaration. This is a function declaration, guys. You have a function declarations, and then the function invocation, and then a return. Howard. Yes. Can you say? Okay. I'm sorry? Yes. Yes. No. So how it actually happens is complete. So, okay. So, I'm sorry? Oh, okay. So he's asking, if JavaScript is interpreted, is it actually doing like a double pass to know that, oh, foo is in here, but then it's actually called in here. So is it doing a one pass to know, to deconstruct it, and then doing a second and reassemble it, and then a second pass to actually execute, to actually do the execution? That's actually not what's happening. And the way it works is, there's something in JavaScript, I do want to get into it, but in maybe 10 seconds. The way it works is that JavaScript is something called a lexical environment. And lexical environments are given like frames and activation records. For every single function is an activation record, meaning that for every single function there are references to the lexical addressing of every variable and function defined therein. By lexical addressing, meaning that it knows where in the code, in the piece of code, the exact statement or function exists. So essentially, it looks at this function, and then it's saying foo. Well, you know, the lexical addressing of foo is right here. There is no actual parsing in it. There is an activation record that is created. Sorry, there is an activation record that is created before execution of the program. Does that understand it? It's a little bit in depth. We can go over it later, but it's a little bit of a complicated thing. But if you guys are really interested, we can go into it. So.
Question. What about functions that have the double brace after them executed? Are those replaced also?
1 second. Let me yeah, I don't understand it, so I'm going to. So you're asking.
We had another thing in there that said.
Another anonymous function.
Anonymous function.
Yeah, where?
Right there. Start a new anonymous function after line 6. Yeah. And then it has the.
Yep.
Does that get hoisted up?
Yep.
Also?
Yep. Yep. It's a function. This is an anonymous. This is called an anonymous function expression. Is going to be executed immediately. And by sheer definition of its execution, it's going to happen in this case right away.
Well, the anonymous function declaration is hoisted, but the execution's
So there is no anonymous. Which anonymous function declaration? So this is not an anonymous function. This is just an anonymous function expression.
So what runs first, foo or that anonymous function?
So in this case, the anonymous function is going. Actually, for this one, I'm not even sure, to be honest. Yep. Yeah. Well, hold on, guys. Yeah. Yep, correct. So, as we can see from the, but actually, before we even do this, guys, let me try something else. Okay, perfect. Same behavior in all browsers, which is a good thing, to be honest. No, I'm not going to try you guys. Actually, there's a problem with IE and anonymous function and even name function expressions, and I didn't want to do that. This is a case yeah, so anyway. Very good, whoever brought that up. Ryan.
If instead of writing function foo, you wrote var foo equals function, would that change it?
So it depends on the browser in that case.
No, he's saying
This-
var foo equals function.
Yeah. So
So it's
and
literally
that
the-
becomes an anonymous function. Would that change?
So this is essentially, this is still a function expression that is assigned. So in this case, no, because what would happen is this.
Right. Right, yeah. Yeah. So you would get an error, right? No.
Not an error.
Undefined.
No.
Oh, calling the function undefined.
Actually wanted to do exactly how you guys did it. Not undefined, guys. There's a difference. This is a type error. Let's move on. So what about var statements and function declarations together? What happens in that? What happens when I have both var statements and function declarations together? First of all, if your code looks like this, there is a problem. You don't want to code like that. It's kind of nasty, and it's really hard to understand because then somebody actually has to go there and either copy it in the debugger to see exactly what the hell is happening, or just apply the hosting themselves and restructure your code so that it can be beautified and easy to understand. And actually put the answers for this up there because I didn't want to go on too much. So in this case, I actually have a statement that is declared right at the top. I have my inner function, hence an inner scope in there, but I have foo is equal to 10 in there. What happens if I run this, guys? I get 10, 1, right? Kind of obvious for that. Let's deconstruct it and see what's happening. Why is it that I get 10 and 1, even though I have foo defined right over here, and yet I'm setting foo to 10? Shouldn't I have gotten something like 10 and 10? So what? I have var foo is equal to 1, and then I have foo here is equal to 10. Ah, okay, good. So we take this function, put it up above, and now it's easier to understand. And I'm still going to be here. So I have one function here with its own scope. In it, I have another function in there. It doesn't have to have its own scope, even though a scope is created for it, but it doesn't have any variables or any declarations inside of it, so it really doesn't matter. So I've created a new function inside of inner called foo. So now foo exists as this property like as this property or variable, but the actual word for it is as this property of this record inside of the inner function. Because of this, foo, the foo identifier, there is another foo identifier inside of inner. So the outer scope has a foo identifier for the variable. The inner scope has another and a completely different foo identifier for the function. Both of them pointing to two different things. And then I say foo is equal to 10. I'm not replacing the identifier of this guy. No, I'm replacing the identifier of the function foo. Hence why when I do console.log in here, foo is not equal to 10. Foo is equal to 10. And then when I do console.log foo here is equal to 1, because it's pointing to this one. Questions?
So that function foo, if you in there you set foo equal to 5.
Trump me. So, what was it?
In the function of foo,
Yep.
set foo equal to 5.
I don't get it.
No, inside the curly braces. Inside the braces, foo equals 5. So would it print out 10 and 5? Well, no,
Well,
because you're not running it.
So when do you want me to execute it?
Oh yeah, foo. Execute foo right now. Oh god. The universe will blow up.
The universe is going to blow up. So with functions and so this is a function declaration. Function declarations in their inner scope, everything in its inner scope actually has access to the outer scope. Sorry, what I'm trying to say is this. What is this akin to, guys? What is this? Recursion. Meaning what in this case? That the inner actually has access to the identifier. So essentially, if I execute it, what happens? And well, it won't blow up. I'm just reassigning the function.
But you'll execute it the first time successfully and then.
Correct. Correct.
Execute it twice in a row.
Uh,
So you could add another call to foo or log.
oh, where?
Right there. That would
Well, foo is equal to 5. That's going to throw an error now. Yeah.
You're right, don't do this.
Well, you guys, everybody here trying to trump me. All right. Okay. Cool. So the exact mechanism that it works, yes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I just had a style question actually.
Oh, yeah.
Could you go back to your the editor
Oh.
that you had? Is it better style to do var foo equals anonymous function foo equals 5, or is that?
So they behave in two different ways completely. Yeah. One's a function declarations. So this one is a function declaration. The other one is a function expression. So the way function expression work with function declarations, the only reason these two things exist is because of how they deal with scoping in JavaScript. That is essentially really one of the only reasons why they exist and that you can do that in JavaScript. And it all has to do with lexical environment. For one, do I really get into it? Okay, so, okay, cool, all right. But basically, and I just want to say this quickly, is that basically one keeps the reference to the outer function by how it was invoked. The other one replaces the reference to the outer scope depending on how it was executed. So that all has to do. So essentially, one of the reasons why these two exist is because of with operation, not with WITH, and eval operations. That's one of the reasons these two exist. And also how different JavaScript engines tend to optimize it. We can get into that later, though.
Does that basically mean in var bar you can't call bar?
Yes, you can. No, wait, sorry. In var bar, you can't call bar? No. Okay, so I wanted to get into this. So how does it work exactly? The first thing that happens, again, as we saw from all the exercises, is that all function declarations all functions declarations are going to be hoisted. So a new property, part of the enclosing scope, is created with that variable name and the value. If it already exists, that means that you have two function foo. If it already exists, we replace it. So I have like function foo, and then I have function foo again. Too bad you get the second function foo. You can forget about the first function foo. Then the second step is that it looks for all the variables. A new property with the variable name is created, and it's given, again, as we said, a default value of undefined. If that identifier, so if I have like function foo, and then I have var foo, if that identifier already exists as a function foo, but yet I have var foo, we leave it alone. If it doesn't exist as that means that the function rules, takes precedence. Otherwise, it's actually going to replace it. And whether we can actually, with these steps, we can actually end up solving things like this. So without anybody trumping me, can we figure out what this is going to do? Is this it? Yep. No? Ah, okay. Perfecto. Is it? Yes. What's going to happen? Sorry. I wasn't sure. Okay, so what's going to happen, guys? What's going to happen? Camilla, what's going to happen?
You're going to keep switching screens.
Right, anybody? I'm sorry? Okay, so tell me the first. Let's deconstruct it and then reconstruct it. So let's apply hoisting first. So what do we see here first, guys? How many functions do we see? 3. Okay, so let's go in the inner function. I have foo right over there. Where does it go? All right. So what's going to happen? Okay. So where all the consoles are, what's going to happen? What's it going to print out? Well, it's pretty obvious right there. And then, well, and then, cool. Yes. Oh, you're going to trump me?
No. Will inner be hoisted above or below the first?
Good observation. Wait, actually, I have no understanding. You mean this?
Yeah, like.
So the hoisting is at the scope level. So I'm sorry. There is this one here that is part of the outer scope, and then there is inner that it has foo, and foo is part of the inner scope.
I'm not talking about that foo.
Uh-huh.
At the top you have var foo 1, right?
Yes.
And then you have the declaration of.
Function inner.
So which will.
Function inner. Yeah. So well, we're gonna get picky. Okay.
So that's what's going to happen.
No.
Oh.
Not done yet. Cool? Does that make it easy? Great question, actually. Great. Any questions about scoping, guys? Oh, Kevin.
So will the vars declarations get put above the function declarations?
No. So the first thing that happens is the function declarations are hoisted. Then, in that order, by the way. So step 1, all function declarations are hoisted. Step 2, all variable declarations are hoisted. Actually, there's a step 3 that has to do with parameters, like function parameters, but we're not going to go into that.
So the variables would be above. So the variable declarations would be above the function.
No, the function, the function declarations are going to be above. And okay. Getting pedantic. Okay. So the function declarations are going to be hoisted, going to be moved to the top of their enclosing scope. Then, okay, fine. Then all the variables are going to be hoisted to the top, but below the function declarations. Does that make things easier for you? You know, guys, I thought this example, this would show it for you. No?
No, but you have,
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Sorry, sorry. This is the correct. I was wrong. This is correct. This is what's going to happen.
They get hoisted, but they get hoisted above.
I'm sorry?
They get hoisted above.
Yes. Confuse myself. Of course, guys, there is always a way in which you can remember that initial programs that initial thing. Remember that. Sorry, guys, but remember how we see this right over here. There is actually a way we can replicate this behavior of having one to one. You know, in this case, would be right over here. Oh, come on. So essentially, using a immediately invoked function expression, or IFI for short, you can replicate the exact same behavior. Essentially, you're forcing a new scope inside of another scope, and therefore that variable has no effect on the outer scope. I often hear people calling this a self-executing function. Don't call it that. It's an immediately invoked function expression. Self-executing means that it's executing itself. That's like a recursive function. This one you're executing, so immediately invoked function expression. So if you hear people saying call it self-executing function, just wrong. Okay, any other questions, guys, so far? Oh, Camilla.
Use example, if you did bar foo equals 10.
Oh, more trumping. This one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to copy it. Huh.
If instead you did bar foo equals 10,
Mm-hmm.
what do you get for
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's reconstruct it.
Is it a function now or?
What's going to happen? What? Sorry? Okay.
So the bar goes above.
Yep. Sorry.
So
Yep.
the bar moves
Yes.
towards the
Yes. Thank you, Kevin, by the way, for calling me out on that. No problem, man.